Welcome to Albino Chile TV. My name is Claudia Núñez, President of the corporation Albino Chile.
Hi Claudia, hello everyone. My name is Carolina Gonzalez and I am the Vice President of the NGO. As an organization, one of our objectives is to inform society about albinism. And this is our first edition in English.
That's why today we'll present the interview with the UN independent expert who represent the human rights of people with albinism, aka ERO.
We thank her for her willingness and also Yasmin Leiva, who conducted the interview.
Without further ado, we will leave you with Yasmin and IK.
Hello everyone, it's Yasmin Leiva. Thanks so much for watching. We are here with a UN independent expert on the enjoyment of human rights by people with albinism, Ipongosa ERO. So, how are you? Hello.
Hello, I'm fine, thank you.
Cool. So to start with this interview, before talking about albinism, we would like to know about you. Tell us about yourself, what do you do, and the things that you do in your life.
How long do you want me to say? Because I can talk for 2 days. So yes, thank you very much for having me here today. I really like South America. I'm actually learning Spanish so I can talk to you guys eventually.
Cool.
Thank you for having me. I grew up in Nigeria. I was born and raised in Nigeria. I moved to Canada when I was in high school or secondary school. And once in Canada, I moved with my family to Canada with my parents at that time. And here in Canada, I finished university. I finished high school. I finished university. I studied to become a lawyer, and I was practicing law for the government of Canada. Before finally, when I was practicing, I was seeing in the newspapers some articles say people with albinism were being attacked. And it really moved me because I could understand already the stigma they were going through. And to have on top of that, this problem of attacks for me was just absolutely horrifying. And I said to myself, what can I do about it? Finally, I found an organization in Canada called Under the Same Sun, and they were doing something about it. They met me, and then they said, "Oh, we think you should come and work for us, and because you have a legal background, you have albinism, you understand the Africa, you understand North America." So I said yes. I left the government of Canada and I started working for them, and then the UN started doing more, and then they created this post, and then they appointed me to the post.
An interesting life. Yes, you are very close to albinism in general and researching and doing those kind of things, right?
Yes, so I've been working very hard to research more about albinism around the world. I think there's a lot of interesting facts that are yet to be discovered. So for example, I'm just finding out from some of my colleagues that are doing research that this prevalence of 1 in 17,000 people with albinism is probably wrong. There's probably more people with albinism than we realize. Yes, because also they have not been counting other types of albinism. They're only counting the one that is very obvious, you know. But there's some people that have particular types of albinism that also need to be counted. So we are discovering. So I give you an example of why we need to get this data. Malawi, which is a country in Southern Africa, before we thought there was between 10,000 and 30,000 people with albinism. They did a census last year, and there's 134,000. Yeah. So this is it's a lot of people. So this is a condition that requires even more efforts to highlight it and to bring out more data. I have 1 more year on the UN. I hope that going forward, somebody else too will continue this work and really do more even outside of Africa, do more in South America and around the world.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so we know that you are the first person who represents the human rights of people with albinism, which is something historical for us and makes us feel very proud. How did your role as an independent expert started in the first place, and what motivated you in the first place? Yeah.
So initially, the UN, how it works is you have to go there and you have to lobby, you have to advocate, and then they can pass a resolution. And resolutions are very important because it's a position of the UN on a particular issue. They resolve to do this or they resolve to do that. So we were pushing for so long. First time ever, an albinism resolution was adopted in 2013 on June 13, and this is how we got Albinism Day. They condemned discrimination, stigma, and then attacks against people with albinism, and then they called for more research and more support from government. So we continued through Under the Same Sun, and we got new allies, new organizations were supporting us in advocating at the UN, and then we officially got Albinism Day in 2014 through this resolution. Now, because resolutions have to be done with countries, like member states of the UN, and not NGOs, like non-governmental organizations, don't have the same power. They have the power to push, to lobby, but only the countries can bring the resolution. So you need to find friends that are countries. So the friend we found, very strange, the friend we found was Somalia. So it's so funny. You should never judge anybody, any country, because you never know who will be in the end your friend. And Somalia ambassador, I think he was going through some things in his life where he wanted to support really important things that are very human. So when he heard the story of people with albinism, he was very touched. He spoke Spanish, by the way. He was living in Panama many years. Yes, I wish he met you, but he died in a terrorist attack. 6 months after he helped us. Very sad. 6 months after he helped us to get Albinism Day, he died in a terrorist attack. May his soul rest in peace. But he helped us get Albinism Day, and then he was the one pushing for this independent expert. I did not understand what he was talking about, and because he pushed and pushed, it was accepted one day before he died. So it was accepted today, the next day he was dead. So we didn't know what he was planning to do with the position, who he was going to put there, who he was going to ask to be put there. So because to kind of honor his legacy and to make sure that his dream will come true, my organization at that time, Under the Same Sun, decided to take this responsibility to look for somebody who can do it. And in the end, people were saying, oh, you already know the UN system, why don't you just try? And that's how I ended up in the position. And that's what the UN has been doing on albinism.
That's so emotional. Yes.
Yeah.
And what are the main goals, considering those experiences that you have lived and the issues that you have found researching in these countries? What are the main goals behind Under the Same Sun?
So Under the Same Sun right now I'm not a staff for them because I had to go into work in the UN, but I work very closely with them because in the end they support me a little bit because the UN mandate, I work volunteer. It's a no pay position. So I give all my time for that, and Under the Same Sun supports me to help me survive a little bit. Under the Same Sun's goal is to help bring out, to do advocacy, to speak for the difficulties. That's why sometimes people tell them, oh, you're not positive, but no, they're not there to talk about positivity. They're there to fix situations. And so their big advocacy goal is to advance the human rights of people with albinism everywhere. But because they don't have unlimited resources, they focus right now on Tanzania and some countries in Africa. But they are very interested in international work. This is why they started going to the UN, and also why last January they helped to start the Global Albinism Alliance. They paid they were a big sponsor of this event because they want people with albinism everywhere to start to benefit from this movement that we're building.
That's so nice. Going to another topic, what are your personal dreams regarding albinism? What are your personal goals, aims?
I have many, but some of the ones that come to mind right now is, for me, the most important thing is that we have those attacks come to an end because they're very horrible. I have met people who have been attacked. I've met people who are missing their hands, missing their legs. I've talked to their parents. I've cried with them. So I really wish I could take away their pain. So I want those attacks to end. Those who have been attacked, I want them to be fully compensated. Then after that, I want people with albinism around the world to unite, to support each other. Those who have more problems, we can help them. Those who have less problem can help those who have more problems. And then we can help to inform each other on what we have done that worked in our country. If you've succeeded in Chile or in Argentina, let's share those practices and let's be a strong movement. let's speak for ourselves. Yeah. And so I think the third thing I would like is for people with albinism to be more showcased. We're very interesting people, and we remind humanity that in the end, what matters is just being human. Because you come into the room and all you can see is white skin and blonde hair, and we're all from different countries, and so we we have so many lessons for humanity. So I hope there will be a platform where we can highlight people with albinism in a bigger way going forward, so even the world can learn from us, see our humanity, and learn about their own humanity by looking at us. And finally, I hope that all the things we've done in the past few years will not ever die. I hope that people who are younger, people who are getting more passionate, will do more than we have done now to make this issue continue to go forward, so that when a child with albinism is born today or tomorrow, that person will not have any challenges that any of us had, and instead will look about what we have done more as a matter of history and enjoy all their human rights, no matter where they're born. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Okay. So this interview is going to be released on a very important date, which is June 13th, which is the International Albinism Awareness Day. So maybe you know more about this day. How was this day established in the first place?
So the day was established by the ambassadors of Somalia, Ambassador Yusuf, is his name, Ambassador Yusuf Bari. So the same ambassador, he approached Under the Same Sun, who was the main UN NGO on albinism. Now there are two. I hope more organizations will register to be a UN NGO. But at that time, there was only Under the Same Sun, and the Somali ambassador said to them, look, you can get a day to create awareness. This condition is misunderstood everywhere, not just in Africa. People don't understand it. Why don't you have a day? And then everyone was saying, it's going to be hard to have a day. The UN is tired of creating days. There's already the day of the toilet. There's already the day of many things, and nobody cares anymore. But we said, we care. If nobody cares, we care. Give us the day, and then we use it, right? So the Somali ambassador, very courageous man, he went to New York, which is the only place you can get it. And he used to work, he is based in Geneva, but he went to New York to fight for this day. He was fighting countries. A lot of people were contradicting him, but he was fighting for this. And I was there in New York to support. I was like a secretary. I was developing all his speeches and working for him to make sure this thing happened. And then in the end, it was adopted. Some countries voted against, but those were the countries that felt that they felt they were being attacked, you see, like the countries with records of attacks against people with albinism. But in the end, it went through, and his courage really was what put us to this point. So that's how we got Albinism Day, and we chose June 13th because it's the first day when the UN had a resolution on albinism.
And yes, and we understand that the June 13th also is the day for skin cancer. Is that right or not?
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yes.
If it is, that's perfect. I only know it's an international day for Portugal. Yeah, it's a special day for many people, for many Christians, special day. So if it's true that it's an international cancer day, that's perfect. I will go and investigate. Yeah.
Yes, very interesting. We know that it's important for you, the idea of leaving no one behind, which is a phrase that you always use and is important, and is relevant for your cause in Africa, especially. What other countries you feel that need more attention regarding albinism, according to your research?
The entire South America, because it's a very interesting part of the world, because of the mixture of different ethnicities. And so albinism there, I believe, is higher than being reported. We need to do research to actually know the number. I was just in Brazil, and when I told even some government officials that it looks like there's about 10,000 people with albinism, some of the government were like, no, it's more than this.
Yes.
It's more than this. Yeah, so I think South America is very interesting for me, and also because there's a problem with color in South America where, people are treated differently according to how they look and all that. I think this needs to be investigated, how it plays on the lives of people with albinism. There's also poverty rates in some countries in South America, and poverty intersects with albinism in an interesting way that is also quite difficult for the family members. I saw that even in Brazil, so I think we need to investigate. For me, the second region that is very interesting to look into is India, South Asia. So India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and even some Southeast Asia like Indonesia. So the whole of, for me, the two primary regions we should start really targeting is South America and South Asia. I think as long as there's a difference between the color in a country, there's going to be some serious social issues. And as long as there's some records of poverty, there's also serious issues. I see a lot of reports already that prove that this is the case. So I hope that going forward, there will be more efforts in these regions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. In Chile, at least I think that the most important issue is the lack of information regarding albinism, the lack of educational changes that need to be done regarding curriculum and strategies for students to learn better. That's very important. These days, we have had very difficult situations regarding discrimination and racism in the United States. And I wanted to ask you how that reflects with the situations that have happened with albinos that you have experienced and that you have seen their lives. How is that reflected on that?
That's a very interesting question. It's so complex. In fact, people have called me to ask me this question, and I have been running away from those calls because it's so complex. I don't even know how to answer. I haven't thought about a very packaged way of responding to it. It's so raw. But what I can say is, at this point, is there is people with albinism they're a little bit complex because in the end we are different even from our own family members in the way we look, and so many people with albinism, however, are supporting the Black Lives Matter. They're supporting the movement in the USA about protecting Black people and all that. They're supporting that, and I am supporting as well because it's a human rights issue, and we all should be supporting all human rights issue, or at least be listening. Even if you don't understand, just listen. But the issue is, at the end of the day, people with albinism in those communities face double discrimination from their own communities and from society at large. So even though we support this movement because we want to protect our family members, we also want to educate our own communities. But now we're not comfortable saying that in this context because we know that if we say that, it's going to take people off the issue. People are going to be focusing, oh, you see, now you say I'm racist, but you are also racist toward people with albinism. Like, it's so complicated. And so at the end of the day, I'm still thinking about the best way to make us fit into that movement. And I will have a better answer for you next time you ask me this question, because people are waiting for me to say something, and I'm thinking.
Yes, it's a very complex matter. In your opinion, how albinos from Latin America or in Chile, or this part of the world, can help in the cause of Africa? Because we always want to help in a way that is important. So how can we do that, in your opinion?
So I think that one of the ways to help out is to, well, first of all, organize yourselves and have a goal, a mission. You yourself have your house in order. And then, because I always want to make this clear, Africa albinism groups are many of them are old now. I think the oldest albinism group there is from 1977. So many of them have a lot of experience organizing things. They just live in a very complex context, and that's why they have problems. So if you organize yourself before going, it will really help them too. And then the second thing is there's some African countries that speak Spanish, but nobody has investigated what's happening in those countries in terms of people with albinism because of the language barrier. Those people are a minority on the continent. So I think this is a first start to link up with those Spanish-speaking African countries to get information. Data is so important before we can do anything. So that's another way to help. The third way to help is to adopt a local albinism group. And when I say adopt, I don't mean like, this is a little pet, I'm going to adopt this little dog. No. I mean adopt in sense of find a partnership, and I can talk with you about it. If somebody's interested, they can ask me, oh, we're interested in A, B, C, D. We want a country where there's attacks. We want a country where they're speaking Portuguese or something, or Spanish. Which one do you recommend? I can help you. And then you can approach them, have a partnership, and then come up with an agreement. We're going to help you maybe supply every month. We will give you $200 to cover your transportation when you do advocacy, and you give us a report. I think this is one of the concrete ways they find, and then you can just tell everyone, look, we're adopting an organization, or we have a partner, we're building a partnership, it will be a very good example. I've been trying to push this and nobody has done it yet in a more formal way. So I hope South America eventually would be a leader in this area.
Yes, we certainly want to be more involved in this matter. Great. So this interview is going to be dubbed into Spanish, so that everyone from Latin America can see it and watch it. Yes. So in this context, what message would you give to albinos from Latin America in these important dates?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want to tell people with albinism and their allies in South America that I'm very impressed as to how you have been carrying yourself. It's really, for me, very touching. I saw there was a regional meeting. I saw the democratic processes to come to Paris for the Global Alliance meeting. It was the only region who had this structure. And I have been giving people as an example of what can happen when people come together. So first of all, I really want to recognize this because it is not a small matter. The second thing, I would like to call upon everyone in South American region to get more involved in the issue of albinism, for example, through the Global Albinism Alliance. For instance, help them out because next year in February, they're going to be discussing building a permanent alliance. And when that time comes, we really need all of you to come on board and to volunteer. Also, we hope that you will become a leader in this partnership idea I just proposed to find a country-to-country partnership. So if, for example, Chile can decide that they're going to be working with Cabo Verde in a partnership, and then you can talk about that on your website, give examples of how it has worked, your challenges, so that other people might be encouraged to do that. Because too many people have said, hey, this attack is not in my country, go away, I'm not involved.
Yes.
But how? That's right. And for me, it's so sad because other movements have a solidarity. After all, a woman in Canada is not the same as a woman in Saudi Arabia or a woman in South Africa, but women stand together. So why are we saying this? So I call for a global unity, a global solidarity. Do not be afraid. It's not something to be scared of. And I'm here to help. Many of us are here to help. So those are my calls to you and also my congratulations.
All right. Thanks so much for this interview, for giving us a little bit of your time. And thanks so much for the people who are watching us. And thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Yes.
Thanks a lot.
And if you want to come to Chile, we are invited in case you want to come.
Thank you. I will take that seriously. Thanks.
Cool.
Before we say goodbye, we want to thank Saike for all the work she does for albinos of the world. For us, is a source of inspiration.
I completely agree. Ike is a great woman. We would like to support the cause in the future. Bye-bye.
Bye.